heard from the medical professionals, we've heard from the medical specialists. And what is there in waiting other than the city is not going to get the tax revenue? And I think that's all that the city's concerned about. How about the people that start this and then they get addicted to it? And the medical marijuana, that may be one thing because it has to have a doctor's prescription. The recreational, that is totally different. I hope you're able to. How would any of you feel if your family members got addicted to cannabis? Would you be happy with that? I don't think you would you? The other thing is the leaf problem in Bloomington. And I've seen cars literally dodge each other because leaves are supposed to be on the parkway. People insist on raking them in the street. Now, you know, there is absolutely no. Then we have a huge wind. And it comes around and redistributes the leaves all over. Why? Because they're not in bags, they're raked to the street. Why not put them in garbage cans? At least if we have a big wind, it's not going to redistribute them. I don't think you'd be real happy, would you? If it would. Plus the fact the roads and the drains are absolutely in pathetic condition. You take the sidewalks out by City Hall, the government center, the library, they're all ADA accessible. I've seen people in walkers try to go and navigate the sidewalks in front of my house, and they go out the street, try to navigate the streets, they turn around and go back. Because the streets are absolutely as bad as the sidewalks. Now, I'm absolutely appalled that this city finds money to do everything they want, but not to put into the lousy infrastructure. Now, you know, maybe this is the way they run things at Westland. It's not the way they run things in the city of Bloomington.
Thank you. David Kobus and Janice Lancaster.
David Kobus. I recommend that any new tax revenue from marijuana sales tax be targeted for pension underfunding. I feel the town of Normal was wrong in not voting to do that. They tried to increase property taxes to fund unfunded pension liability, and that failed. This is a good time to target new taxes to cover that expense. When you decide to put in a dispensary or anything related to marijuana in a neighborhood, you should put up a sign like you do when you're going to rezone some property and let property owners have some input on how that location is going to be used. The city has two huge money liabilities in pensions and water treatment improvements that taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill on. We're going to have a $160 million liability with water treatment improvements. Fortunately, that will be shared with Normal. Even if you buy bonds and increase that, which increases that $160 million liability and spread it over years, we're still paying over $160 million in this community. That is why we need to get control of our city spending and expenses. Taxpayers are maxed out with tax and fee increases at state and local levels. We don't have more to give. We have to live within our means. It's time the city starts doing that, living within our means. Any plans for a city transit center should be functional, not extravagant. Any non-essential infrastructure expenses over $1.2 million should be put on a referendum for approval, because in the past, our expenses have exceeded our tax base and our taxes and fees keep going up and up. City officials have a poor track record with their spending habits of taxpayer money. All automatic yearly fees and taxes should be eliminated. All tax and fee increases should be justified and voted on and not hidden. We should not be spending millions on a sports complex, period, and hopefully end of story, which I've heard from some people isn't in the mix, but then I hear in the news it is. We should replace the O'Neill pool with another pool and not do a complete redesign regeneration of the park and put in an aqua center. We shouldn't be competing with Normal and saying we need an aqua center because they have one. An aqua center would require more staffing to run, require marketing expenses, and probably have more full-time employees with pensions to cover. Somebody should look at recycling contamination and if something can be done to reduce the expenses because of contamination. Somebody should be doing a better job of educating people on how to recycle, so the expenses of recycling don't continue to rise. We need to take a serious look at recycling and what it's costing. I'm all for recycling, but it needs to be cost justifiable as much as it can be. BCPA and the arena should have a yearly accounting of all income and expenses, not spread out all over different accounts. This should list all expenses like marketing, city employees' time doing work on these, or working for the facility, meals paid for, chauffeuring, vehicle expenses. This means all expenses and income in one easy-to-read document so we can see the true loss statement. The city really needs to get a handle on not paying for things like meals for staff, parties and guests, as well as flowers for funerals. I've seen expenses for lots of food on BCPA activities. The city needs to run things like a business and justify these expenses to the taxpayers.
Thank you. Janice Lancaster.
Our topic is the cannabis topic. Before moving forward to allow any form of cannabis operations in our community, whether farms, processing plants, dispensaries, there are several issues that I feel need to be addressed and questions answered. They are: 1, smell; 2, laws; 3, dispensary locations; and 4, infrastructure unknowns. First, the smell. There is an overwhelming dead skunk smell from cannabis farms and processors. It can travel up to a mile. There's a New York Times article, and I can write that for you if you'd like the link. In 2016, California did approve recreational marijuana law, and smell issues were not addressed before they passed the law. So, for example, currently in Sonoma County and Santa Barbara County, residents are enraged as nothing is in place to regulate cannabis businesses and stench. When the smell is at peak, the smell is so overwhelming that some residents wear commercial grade respirators, and there is all known impact on home values as well. Laws is the second area. Laws should be in place that would require a grower to contain all cannabis orders before allowing any growers or processing facilities in communities. Laws should also be in place regarding locations of dispensaries, which brings me to locations of dispensaries. A recent study from the University of Michigan reported that half the people taking cannabis for chronic pain report driving while high. And I'll go link for that also if you'd like that. Dispensaries should not be allowed anywhere near children. Even a setback of 250 or 500 feet would only be about a city block, and in essence, the dispensary is still in your neighborhood. So the distance isn't far enough away. The number of locations, if we allow dispensaries in our community, we need to move very slowly and allow only maybe 1 or 2 and determine its impact before allowing others. The fourth area, infrastructure unknowns. For example, emergency rooms and police. Has any research been done to determine the potential impact on the local police emergency rooms due to increased potential DUIs, more police in ERs, less police on the streets, need for more police then to be hired, with the tax that's potentially going to be imposed on the processors or dispensaries cover the cost of hiring more police. So, in summary, I am not in favor of having cannabis operations in our community at this time. However, if this council votes to allow it, I respectfully request 2 things. The laws first be in place that would require any grower or processor to contain the odor 100%. And second, that laws first be in place to require dispensaries to be a significant distance from residential areas and schools, and to initially limit the number of locations to 1 or 2 and determine impact before allowing additional locations.
Thank you very much. We're going to move right along to the consent agenda. Are there any items that members of the City Council would like to have removed for separate consideration from the consent agenda? Okay, we'll move from Councilman Boland.
L and M.
7L and M. Okay. Councilmember Enoch.
I as in ice.
Okay. Councilmember Craig.
7F.
7F. Let me just use down. Okay.
Just got a note that the
Thank you very much.
YouTube video
Is
is
there a
not
motion?
working.
There's no audio. We're trying to fight it right now.
Got it.
Something's
Is
down.
there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of items 7L? I think you, actually, you need that in the recording, don't you? Okay. I understand that a little bit. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of items 7L and M and I as in ice and F?
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Councilmember Painter. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember Bray. If everyone could please the motion carries 7-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. I'm going to go back to these in the order in which they were pulled. So I'm going to start with Councilmember Boland. You pulled.
Sorry, really quickly.
Oh, it should be
Bullets
eight.
didn't come through, so
You were
She
at
was
and
at
both. So 8-0. Excuse me. And I'm going to go ahead and turn to Councilmember Boland. You pulled. Start with 7L.
I just want to make a brief comment. Last week, the plan for Demons Grove was presented, and we all voted in favor. It's a great plan. But I would like to recognize Alderman Karen Schmidt for all the work that she put in, because she lived there for about 20 years, and I think that a lot of credit goes to her. So I just wanted to recognize that. And then on 7M, there's actually two items regarding recycling and solid waste that kind of tied together. And someone in the audience mentioned about, oh, sorry.
Yeah, if that's all you wanted to do on 7L.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve 7.
Okay, is there a second to the motion? Second by Councilmember Black. If everyone will go ahead and vote. Motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And Councilmember Boland, continue.
Okay. Okay, 7M ties into the Ecology Action Commission. And I noticed that there's an increase in both of those funding. And I would like to support a request that the Ecology Action Commission work very much on getting clean recycling, because I think part of the cost has to do with not finding a market for mixed recycling. So I'd like to see an effort to educate the community on that. And going forward, I would also like to have some kind of financial report from the Public Works Department regarding nuisance disposal and perks, recycling play into all this, because there seems to be a lot of different contracts that revolve around recycling and solid waste, and I'd like to see how they would coordinate sometime. Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Craig. Yeah.
Would it help to have maybe like a 5-minute recess to try to figure out this audio issue?
Yeah. Do we know what's going on?
YouTube, audio is not being fixed. We're aware of that, trying to fix that, and trying to fix that. We think it's impacting what's going on at the dais right now. So what we're going to do is stop trying to fix the YouTube issue. Do your job.
Well, this sounds much better. Well, sort of. So everyone go ahead and vote, please, on the motion, and second. Motion carries 9 to 8-0, the nomination now Madam Clerk. And then I'm going to move to Councilmember Emick, who pulled item I as in ice.
Yes. I just need to recuse myself from this vote.
Oh, okay. We'll all come out here and feedback and we'll let you know. Okay. Okay, is there a motion? Excuse me. Pardon? Move approval, I'm assuming by Councilmember Milwaukee. Is there a second? Second. Several seconds there. Second by Councilmember Matthew. Any further discussion? Seeing none, if everyone go ahead and vote. Motion carries 7-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. I think we can go ahead and get Councilmember Emick back in. And now we move to item 7F. That was pulled by Councilmember Cragle.
Thank you. So this is the brickwork for the BCPA, and just wanted, ultimately the contractor that was selected was from Morton, but I really appreciate the staff adding in the local preference adjustment in this, so we could take a look at that and determine that, you know, even giving that preference, it wasn't competitive. So I really appreciate that. So I move to approve item 7F.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Black. Any further discussion? Seeing none, if everyone go ahead and vote. Motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Okay, we move right along to our regular agenda. And our first item is 8A, consideration and action on awarding the request for proposal RFP 2020-21 for the fiscal year 2019 taxable capital equipment lease to J.P. Morgan for $4,629,023 as requested by the Finance Department. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our city manager and Mr. Rathman for a brief presentation and then a brief council discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. If this requires Scott with additional information, he's prepared to comment to it. But basically, this is the capital lease program. We put this out for an RFP. What we're proposing tonight is J.P. Morgan be approved because they were the lowest responsible bidder. Total impacts over the 10-year blended rate and term of the loan is 2.39%, but the total interest cost to the city is a little bit more than $340,000. If you also recall, we're currently in FY20, and last year as we were proposing the FY20 budget, we talked about trying to shift our practice to make purchases instead of leasing or borrowing money for the various type of equipment that we lease. That's going to be that is in motion. So we are actually, this list is a little bit smaller than what it might have been this year, and we hope to shrink that over the course of the next handful of fiscal years. Any additional comments or questions, I'll take those, or we'll turn those over to Scott.
Questions, comments, or a motion? Councilman Cole.
Yeah, I just briefly explain how the lease type thing works, the lease, and then do we purchase and then take the loan out to cover it?
That's correct. So all the purchases were approved as part of the FY19 budget. Purchases occurred during the year and they trail into the next year. So, things such as fire trucks sometimes take a year to build out. But we do the financing in arrears. Early on, when this practice was put into place, some of the financing was done ahead of time. We ended up not, this is the history I understand, and not purchasing all the equipment, so we were paying back debt financing that we didn't need. So it was shifted to do it in arrears so that we know exactly what we're borrowing. And all the debt service is already incorporated into the 20 budget for this financing.
Thank you.
Anything else? Or is there a motion?
So moved. To approve as presented with wording to JD.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilmember Matthews. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Milwaukee, Secretary in Chief. Any further discussion? If everyone will go ahead and vote. Motion carries 8-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. We move right along to item 8B, consideration and action on an ordinance with a development agreement by and between the City of Bloomington and Mala LLC and Carmala LLC, and that's also known as Lulu's Pizza, 802 East Washington, as requested by the Economic Development Department. And I believe there's a brief presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gleason and then council discussion. And this is also related then to item 8C.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll comment to this, general comments for both 8B and 8C. It would typically would be on the consent agenda. But since this was publicly discussed and the request of council to go back to the developer and change the name to remove gaming, this is one that we felt should be on the regular agenda, so it is. Melissa Hahn, the Economic Development Director, is available if there's additional questions or comments after I'm done. But this was an opportunity for us, a part of our community, with a substantial investment. It's also going to require a liquor license. With the liquor license is a video gaming license. And the development agreement after the last meeting that Melissa worked on, hopefully struck a deal that we know the developer is satisfied with, but hopefully council is satisfied with. And there is zero impact. We've got a moratorium on our video gaming terminal licenses. But this developer wanted assurance that they would receive and make this substantial investment. They've got similar establishments in other communities, so they meet that criteria of operating something that's similar. But they wanted assurance that they were going to receive a video gaming terminal license after they've made the requested changes with the name. So it would make, if this is approved, it would make the application eventually for a video gaming terminal license. If none of the remaining 7 are left, the stipulation in the development agreement is that the council would lift the moratorium to add 1 additional. I think Leslie can speak if necessary to how many applications are in process, but this is zero impact on those that are in play currently trying to get a video gaming terminal license.
I wonder if we could just have, I hate to bother Melissa, if Melissa could just give us a quick overview of what this redevelopment agreement means.
So with the development agreement, as city manager mentioned, after the last discussions with the name change, they did submit the request to change the name, remove gaming. It is now just Lulu's Pizza. And they are looking to improve the current vacant lot at 802 East Washington, which they purchased back in March of 2016. So just to give you a little bit of background, they have been working on this for some time. They did purchase the lot back in 2016 with the intent to develop and replicate their current business model that they have utilized in other communities, where it is a restaurant that does offer the video gaming. And so with the moratorium then put in place in 18, they held off with the development to wait to see if they were going to be able to replicate that business model. Once the limit was put in place, we did have discussions with them. They had already been coming to project review group and working on site plans, so they've been working with staff throughout, the last few years getting this project together. So we felt like this was a good approach, that they are coming in and making this continued investment in our East Washington Street corridor, which is a gateway to our downtown, and going to be making that improvement and providing a new restaurant for all of us to visit and have pizza. And in return then would be allowed to get that gaming license to restaurant.
Is there any financial?
No, they are not requesting any financial incentives.
Just want to make that clear in case there's any question. Other questions and by council members or comments. Councilmember Ray and then Grego.
Thank you, Mayor. Have you indicated how many licenses they intend to pull or request for the video gaming terminals? Will they ask for the maximum 5, or will they, we're at 5, right?
Yes, I believe so. They would have that many terminals.
So you think they're going to request 5?
They would have 5 terminals, but just they would just be one license for this one location.
Okay, thank you.
And just on that, if for some reason, as I understand it, and Mr. Jerkins can clarify that, with respect to liquor, if for some reason some of their games, of the 5 games that they might have, we've had situations, right, where if 1 or 2 of them aren't profitable, the owners actually pull them. Is that correct? So, but they, from the city standpoint, we have not gone along with the state. We've said you can have up to 6. We've said 5. But ultimately, if they're not profitable, someone else could simply pull them. Is correct?
No, they don't have to have 5. They can't have more than what they want.
Gotcha. Okay. Councilmember Craig.
Thank you. Thank Melissa and Tim and everything you guys have done to work with the developer over the last month or so. I think it's, like you said, it's a positive investment in a part of town that needs that investment. The additional information that I've gotten, they are, in a sense, local based on what they've invested so far in their businesses. And also just note that the developer has agreed to changes with regard to the name and the hours, correct?
Yes. For liquor.
Liquor, right.
For part of their liquor.
Right, yeah, they had initially wanted, as I recall, 7 a.m.
Just to
we
say
compromised on 10 because he said they wanted to compromise on 9. I said, no, we're going to compromise on 10.
But they were accommodating, so I just wanted to point that out, and I'll be voting yes. Thank you.
Councilmember Eden.
Yes, and I just want to say for the record that this establishment is still subject to our code, which is to say the 50-50 rule. So it's not a given. They still have to meet all of the requirements that we're asking of them. And in terms of the caveat that if we were to award gaming licenses to the remaining few who can apply for them, that we would extend an offer to Lulu's to go one more above and beyond that. And I'm just wondering, speculating, if the reason for that is the kind of the nature of the development, the timeline, all of the issues around the decision that we're making, could we not do that in advance? In other words, could we determine, hey, this is a unique set of issues. Might it make sense to go ahead and say, you may get this license, one more than we had originally agreed, so that the other contenders are still in play for what was passed.
So, and Leslie can talk more, she's more knowledgeable of the process, but as part of our process, they have to get the state approval before our approval. They can't get the state approval without a site, and they can't have a site without a building. Yes. So that was kind of the glitch in moving through the process, was they can't get the state approval and come back to get our approval without having a building.
Maybe just before I go. Currently, roughly, can you give us an idea of how many applications for gaming licenses are out there?
So with the city, we have no pending video gaming applications on file right now. The main reason for that is because they have to come with their state license. So the state currently has 10 pending licenses for our city. And then there's 2 that have been approved that have not come forward yet as well. As far as outstanding license, I have 6 right now that I could issue if somebody came forward with all their ducks in a row.
There are 6 legally left.
Correct. Out of the 60, okay. With our 60 cap, we've issued 54, and we have 6 remaining licenses available. No pending applications on file.
Okay. Councilmember Matthew and Bowman.
Thank you. So this location has been stirring quite a bit of comment in the Dimmitz Grove area, with about 50% of the people reaching out to me wanting to see something go on the corner. Everybody misses Mr. Quicks that was there for forever, but has been gone now for 20 years. I certainly miss the strawberry shakes from that location. And the corner has been empty for a very long time, so there are a lot of folks who do want to see something to go into that location. There are just as many people who are afraid that the design strays way too close to a gaming parlor. It's not the same in a lot of people's minds when you see, for instance, in our neighborhood, Schooners, where Schooners has been there for forever, and there's 3 machines in the corner up against the wall, whereas this location has a dedicated room that's being built specifically for gaming. So there's a significant amount of concern in the community, in the Dennis Grove area, about the way this building is constructed and the ultimate intent of the building. I have talked to friends from Decatur, though, who say that Lulu's is good pizza. So, it's one of those things that are going back and forth. And given, what Julie said, that we do have rules in place with the no more than 50% of revenue being gambling, I am going to vote yes to this today. And I think that there's going to be plenty of neighbors who are going to be watching very closely to see how things shake out. I would not be in favor of making any kind of rules and saying this is a special situation, because then why aren't all 10 of the people who we know are trying to work their way through the state pipeline, why aren't all 10 of them special situations? And I don't want to open that door to now we're at 64 licenses or whatever we're backing down from we're trying to set a line and contain. So I will be voting yes to this, and I think that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be watching very closely, and I hope everything goes the way that we want it to, but we've got tools at our disposal should they not. So thank you for all your hard work on this, Melissa, and I know it didn't necessarily make your life easy, so thank you.
And just let you know, just as with one other place that we had to rein in, the Liquor Commission will be looking very closely at these receipts. Councilmember Bowman.
I want to thank you for all your work on this, because there's been a lot of discussion. I've been inundated with emails about this. You promised, the agreement is here. One of the statements in the ordinance is that the establishment has been in operation at the location for at least 12 months. Is that going to be taken into account?
So they would be replicating their current business model, was how they would be applying for the license.
Okay, I guess I need some kind of clarification on this. And then the other thing, I guess, is we are going to approve them for a license if, basically, we're going to waive and let them have a license if all 6 are filled. Is that correct? Is that my understanding?
Yes, so if by the time they get the building built and they go through the state process to get the state approval and then come back to the city to apply, should all of the licenses, all of the spots be currently filled, then yes, then the ordinance would have to be amended to add 1.
Okay. And along with Alderman Matthews' comment, what do we do when another company comes forward and requests a waive or amendment because their business model relies on video gaming?
And I think with any development project, we would look at, potentially what could be the impact for the community, and then go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Black.
One quick comment, Mayor, that Melissa might be able to speak to that might respond to Alderwoman Bolin. When you spoke to the developer, how quickly, if approved, do they plan on starting construction?
As soon as possible.
So they are anxious to start. I don't know that that changes anything, but they're going to get on this project if it's approved by council.
Councilmember Black.
Yeah, thank you, of course, everybody involved. I know this is a lengthy process and, gone through a lot of different bodies, and so I appreciate all the work that Melissa's done. And I don't wanna step on Jamie's toes, but I'd like to make a motion that we approve B and C together.
Okay, there's no reason why we can't do that, correct, Mr. Jorgens? Okay, since they're essentially the same issue. Yeah, that's right.
Mayor, before we move on, I just have one quick question based on something that was said. Melissa, you said that they compromised, or Mayor, you said they compromised and they can't start serving liquor until 10 a.m. And I guess we never actually talked about this, or maybe I missed it, but does that mean that gambling can't start till 10 a.m.?
That's absolutely correct.
I just want to make sure that I thought that was the rule, but I wanted to make sure that I was clear on
Yes,
that.
no, I mean, that was what we made absolutely clear at the meeting. Yeah. Okay, is there a second to Alderman Black's motion?
Second.
Second by Alderman Milawamba. Any further discussion? Everyone go ahead and vote. The motion carries 7-1. There's one nay to announce, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bolin.
Thank you very much. Okay, motion carries. We move right along to Mr. Gleason.
Thank you, Mayor. It's that time of month that we have Finance Director a monthly report. Scott, here you are. I'll turn it over to you right now because typically I comment to things and I don't want to steal any of your thunder.
First, I'd like to make a comment as to the accessibility of this report. A request was presented last month about having it available online prior to the council meetings, and so for this meeting, we have made that a reality. There's a link now that will be included on the agenda item for the Finance Director's report. The public can click on that. It's going to take them to the Finance Documents page where this report will be published. I want to do one caveat to that. A lot of times we don't have this report done until Friday or the Monday morning. We're compiling the numbers. We have, with the external entity we're dealing with, VenueWorks. Contractually, they give us, if they don't have to give us their number by the 20th, they cooperate. But sometimes, depending on where the meetings fall, the report might not be available the day that the agenda is issued, but it will be available by the time the meeting starts. Once again, we're cautiously optimistic of the trend. This month, again, comparisons to budget and to prior year, all positive numbers, other than utility tax line, which, as I've indicated every month, this year, telecom is really bringing that down. We're seeing some really sound results in the food and beverage line items, $158,000 ahead from prior year, or budget, $107,000 ahead of prior year. This is a similar, almost the same snapshot every month. It's easy to talk about this, so I thought this time I'd throw in a little fun with numbers from the finance guy. So for food and beverage, the tax rate is 2%. So just using simple algebra, the budget is $4.3 million. So dividing 2% into $4.3 million results in $215 million per year in food and beverage sales around the city. So I think that's a pretty outstanding number. When I calculated it, we're always looking at just the gross revenue numbers, not the gross sales. So along that same line, let me just rattle off a couple more. Home rule, the tax is 2.5%, as everyone knows, at $23.2 million in revenues. That equals about $929 million in gross annual sales. State sales tax, 1% the city receives from the state tax. So if the breakdown of sales tax in the city is 5% the state keeps, 1% the city, a quarter goes to the county, and then our 2.5% for home rules on top of that equals 8.75% total sales tax for the city. So the 1% that comes in from the state, with a budget of $14.3 million divided by 1%, that's $1.43 billion in sales. So the difference in home rule and state sales, a lot of people are familiar with that, but the biggest component, registered vehicles, are not subject to home rule sales tax and groceries and things of that nature. So big difference there. One line item that's not up here, I should have done this right after food and beverage, because it shows kind of the attitude of the city, I think, good or bad. Packaged liquor, we have $1.2 million in budgeted sales for packaged liquor. It didn't quite meet our top 11. Remember I said that we did have 10, but then we made it 11 here because we wanted to include replacement tax. Packaged liquor is 4%, so 1.2 million divided by 4%, the city spends $30 million a year on packaged liquor. Any questions for that?
Questions of Mr. Ratner? Councilmember Craven?
And I did find this online, so I'm looking at it on my computer, so good job there, thank you. Just on the local motor fuel, it's up 106%, and that's because we doubled the motor fuel tax, and so it appears like we're getting the motor fuel tax revenue in that we expected from that increase. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost working out to the T, the 100%, the doubling over last year.
Okay.
4%, or 4 cents to 8 cents per gallon.
And then with regard to the Amazon tax, I'll call it, right? That's under the home rule sales tax. I mean, that's where you see the effect.
Not yet. So,
Okay, sorry.
the Amazon, they're considered a facilitator, as far as the legislation goes. So the online retail sales tax, right now, it's a use tax for the city. So it's coming in under local use tax. So the $2.3 million in annual budget were $85,000 ahead. You can see that we took up last year's. Let me go back. Last year's budget was 1.9. The legislation ruling went into effect in October 2018. We started seeing the results immediately, so we took the budget up $450,000 for 2020, and we're still exceeding the budget for the year. So online retailers, they're all ramping up. They know. I've been stating that in July 1st of next year that the local tax is going to have to be collected. I saw a fact sheet from IML where that's been pushed out to January 1st of 2021 now. So it's been delayed somewhat. So we're not going to see as big of a bump next year on the local tax, but that's when we're going to see this kind of shift. The revenues for those sales are going to go from the local use up into home rule, part of them are. So it'll be something that we're discussing in the future. It's a good question.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Councilmember Butler.
No question. I like the algebra.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of fun too. I'd be surprised our local tax manager. I said that number to him, and he ran the report for me for the last 12 months. It ended up being $225 million for food and beverage, but I was just working the number off the budget. But it proved the simple math. Sometimes simple math is the best. Moving on to the general fund revenue and expenditures report. This is the one that's the exhibit that's getting smaller and smaller as we put more and more variance notes on here. So my apologies about that. We started updating the projection column. Let me use this. This projection adjustments is going to be an addition onto the revised budget to get the projected year in. So this is our projection adjustments to the original budget. Right now, we're running a little higher than the $750,000, but we want to be cautious when it comes to projecting revenues, so we're discounting that somewhat. So adding $750,000 in potential additional revenues over budget for taxes. Investment income's trending higher. We were really cautious on that one, so that we just wanted to recognize that looks like it's going to come in higher. The big line item I want to do a little discussion on is the benefits line. October 31st was the final date that employees that wanted to take advantage of the early retirement sick leave buyback program took effect, and we're getting some estimates on that now. I've been talking how that line item, we're going to see the ramifications of those retirements. It's a strategic move the city and the council has made to acknowledge that issue, but for 2020, we're going to see an over budget in that line. Right now, our estimate is around $1 million. IMRF, I mentioned this last time, the rate's going up starting January 1st, they're on calendar year. Our rate is going up due to assumption changes for IMRF was using in the return. They were using 7.5%, it's going down to 7.25%. So $1,250,000 for right now, and the early projection phase is what we're looking at as far as being over budget and benefits. But again, that's a strategic move the city and the council has taken to remedy the issues in the future. All the other comments are really just notations about where we are year to date versus prior year, and nothing material has changed from the month before. You can see, going along with Jeff Crable's comment about locomotive fuel tax, that line item is much higher, and along with home rule and state, I mean, it's kind of a compound thing. Any questions about this exhibit?
Councilmember Bowman?
I won't go into the history, but it has to do with the benefits and the leave buyback. I understood that we would have a lot up front and paying out. Is there like a sliding scale, you think, where the second year will be 25% less, and then the third year will be 20 or 50% less?
Well, no, I mean,
In an estimate.
There shouldn't be a residual effect. I mean, this was a take it now.
Okay.
And that method of paying out that sick leave buyback, that is over then.
Okay.
That's why we're going to see this blip in this year.
Okay.
No, this is just general fund. But
Thanks for the clarification.
Yes. And then one more. Just real quick, enterprise funds, mentioned it several times, the council has taken actions to really solidify the enterprise funds, sewer, storm, solid waste, with the fee increases that were adopted a couple of years ago, and the service adjustments made to solid waste. Water has a tremendous amount of fund balance. There's a lot of projects to be done. You can see down at capital projects line, $10.5 million budgeted for the year, using fund balance for that. So we're taking some of the savings. Commented this last time. At the end of the year, water is going to show a loss, but it's a planned loss. It's a planned use of fund balance. It's been accumulating savings for capital projects. The revenue trend, everything's on trend except for sewer. We have some slight deviation there. Probably just a timing issue. Golf year over year, I put in the golf because their trend through the year, we're at 50% through the year right now, 6 months through the year. They're a very seasonal fund, so that doesn't really have an impact on them. But comparison to prior year is a good indicator. $1.7 million last year, $1.6 million this year. And then finally, arena, once again, at the year-to-date budget I have on the bottom right-hand corner. Use my hands again, I want to point here. That's the Venue Works revenue year-to-date budget, and you can see that the actual year-to-date is $768, so still trending ahead for that fund. So very pleased with that. Any questions?
Questions, Mr. Rassman? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. Gleason?
Thanks, Scott. Real quick, on the finance director's report, that link is going to be available by noon on every council meeting that Scott's making his presentation. So we will have as much information as we possibly can. The link will be live noon as our practice. So here's the agenda, the events that are upcoming. We're putting the banners up in the downtown. Currently, they might already be up. Are they, Melissa?
The banners.
The banners
are up.
Yeah.
And then prepping for the holiday season. There's going to be more downtown than what we've had in years past. Trying to make that investment in the downtown. Also, I'll share with the community and council that we're talking about 2020 in the downtown. What does it look like? And I think one theme that's coming is finding a way to, it's not probably not exciting, but clean is a theme that we're going to have in 2020. And just step up what we do with making sure the downtown is as presentable as it possibly can be. I think that's it, Mayor, that I've got for this evening.
Thank you so much, and welcome back. I'm glad you went to the National League of Cities, and glad to have you back. I also want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, and as we go through that, we do have, as is noted up here, the annual turkey trot, and I was wondering if Councilmember Black was going to be running in the turkey trot?
I will be running the turkey trot this year, yes.
Okay, do you have any chance of winning?
No.
Oh, okay.
This was 5 years ago.
I was gonna say that, but I didn't. I just was wondering. And then, of course, as you note over here, on the 30th of November, we have the Winners Park tree lighting. It's nice to see the tree out here, but if you see the tree about maybe 800 feet behind it, it's truly spectacular. So anyway, thank you to everyone and Mr. Gleason and our staff for making all this happen, and Nora and others, and Melissa for really making our downtown shine, literally, figuratively. Thank you. That's all I have. Council members. Councilmember Bray, go ahead and run around the guys.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to start off by thanking those who attended this evening. It's a holiday week, and thank you all for being here and being engaged in our city governance. And in particular, I want to thank those that made public comment this evening on this issue of cannabis. We'll have a decision coming up here soon, and these are folks who are coming, making thoughtful comments, asking good questions for which we need to give great consideration on this cannabis issue. So I look forward to entering into conversations that are significant and substantive with my colleagues here on the City Council, and working in a collaborative manner to bring about the best solution for our city that weaves together all perspectives in a positive way, in a way that we can grow together and continue to maintain our quality of life in this great place that we call Bloomington. So again, thank you for those that came out tonight, and just spread the word. Let's continue to have conversation with each and every member of our great community on this topic, because it's coming, and we need to be thoughtful, and we will be thoughtful, and let's do our part in that regard. Secondly, I just wanted to make mention that I was just so excited, Jay Tetzloff and our Parks Department, that we're building playgrounds. We're restoring and building new playgrounds in the city of Bloomington. And we had the great joy to launch Harmony Park this year, and now we have 2 more playgrounds. And I think, Mayor, keep me straight, we also we launched a playground in the cold winter,
yes,
in the beginning of the year as well. So are we up to 4 playgrounds that we've significantly renovated?
Yeah.
Is it 5? Is it 4? 4. Okay.
You're correct.
So, I mean, isn't that really the good stuff? I mean, bringing our youth along, providing opportunities for family fun. It's exciting to be here in Bloomington. So I treasure the time we have together to work on these important issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Bray. Councilmember Craig.
I can't thank staff enough, so I'll continue to thank them for answering the questions I have, so I don't pull so many consent agenda items. And then I wanted to ask Tim on Connect Trends, and I know we've got the working group, but in our intergovernmental agreement, they need to tell us by December 1st what they're going to request from us with regard to their budget. Do you have any update on that?
I do not, and yes, you are correct. At the committee of the whole meeting, Ms. Judy Buchanan was prepared to present just an update on the working group, take additional questions. And I think staff are going to come along, but she was ill was unable to present, waiting for that update. But you're right, December 1st is fast approaching. I'll get an answer to council, then I'll be prepared to speak to it at the December 9th council meeting. Even though that's after the date, you guys will have an answer before December 1st.
Sure. Thanks, sir.
Councilmember Black.
Thank you. Will we see you at the turkey trot this year? Will you be running?
I'm not going to be running, but I will watch you and as usual, I take pictures of you coming across the finish line.
Hopefully I won't look too bad. Is everybody else in the council going to be joining us on the turkey trot? Yeah, you're It's a good way to do it. Always a fun event. There's a lot of folks out in the community. So I guess my one question would be to Tim, maybe Scott, the audio issues. Are we going to have an audio record of this meeting that we can either post later, or okay, so that'll be taken care of.
Yeah, we're fine. So this recording will be okay. And I don't know if the issues with YouTube were resolved or not.
No, they were not.
They were not, but yeah, we'll get this posted immediately.
Got it, cool. And just so everybody knows, it is not my intention to come to the 12/9 council meeting. I will do it if there is, say, a hot button issue on the agenda. But
It's right after your wedding.
Yes, so I think 2 days of marital bliss, I think I can live with that. But if I have to come, I'm happy to be here, just so everybody knows that's not something I'm attending that meeting.
If you're here, we're going to throw stuff at you.
You probably wouldn't be the only one.
I bet I wouldn't. Councilmember Enoch and then Bowen.
Thank you, Alderman Bray, for your comments. I agree that the input has been substantive, and I cherish an opportunity to keep digging into the cannabis issue. Just for clarity, the task force documents, including the final report, it is on the city website. There's a bar on top of the homepage. If you click on documents, there's a list of all the different organizations. If you click on board and commissions, Cannabis Task Force is right there, alphabetical. If you click on that, aha, see there, thank you, as if magic. And that all of the documentation is there, just so for the record, you can access this information. Secondly, I too am excited about the playgrounds. Harmony Park is my daughter's favorite playground in the city, but that might change pretty soon, I don't know. And finally, to the question of recycling. I met recently with the Director of Sustainability, Elizabeth Reed, who works at Illinois State, and we had a very good conversation about how the city might be able to be a leader in terms of modeling best recycling practices at public events, for example. And we agreed that we would continue that conversation, and I look forward to bringing something to council relatively soon about what that might look like.
Councilmember Bowen.
Again, Jay, he's getting all the kudos today. Finally, after 12, 15 years, what's his name? Yeah. Well, the one by Luther Oaks, I forget the name. Finally is getting a park. Be very happy with that. Grandkids come, visit, they'll have a place. But there's also a neighborhood there. People forget that there's an adjacent neighborhood, which has a lot of young families. So I'm excited about that. And to Alderman Cradell's question, I've been attending all of the sessions, including the small group working sessions for Connect Transit. They are not changing their fee schedule until January. They're pretty much pushing everything back because the group has not been able to finalize everything. So I don't think this, what they are supposed to present will be available. However, I'm going to throw this out there. I think it would behoove us as a council to begin to review that agreement, the intergovernmental agreement, because a lot of the recommendations that are coming forward should be included in intergovernmental agreement. My 2 cents.
Thank you, Councilmember Bowen. And last but not least, Councilmember Matthew.
I'll just put in a plug for the JC's Christmas Parade. It's always one of my favorite events of the early part of the season, and hopefully the weather cooperates with them this year because this is Illinois and that doesn't always happen. I remember seeing squad cars sliding back down the hill by the post office before. So, but that is, if you can make it that'll be right before our next council meeting. If you can make it out for the JC's Christmas Parade at the weather's nice, it's always an amazing event to start December off. So, luck for those guys.
Thank you very much. And at this point, we don't have anything for our executive session. Is that correct? And so, is there a motion to adjourn? By somebody. Move. The loudest one I heard was Councilmember Enoch. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Gray. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Enthusiastic ayes.
I'm going to remember.
Hey, Nicole.
think I have everything from there. So hopefully we can